My first question is, how do you feel right now? Now the trilogy is finished, how is your state of mind?
Hello, Alexei. Hello, Marie-Pauline. I feel relieved. That's for sure. The whole process took a long time, but it was planned in such a way that it was one project, but also the films were each of them was a different story. So it was possible to somehow stay focused or stay fresh because of the different stories that came with the new films. But I'm happy that it all worked out, but I'm also excited to and maybe anxious to see how the three films will work together. I also haven't traveled that much with the last film. Personally in person, so I still hope that I get to travel a bit more with the film to see how people react and to know their maybe interpretations or thoughts.
I guess we're going to talk about interpretation because your film are quite open for that. So, do you have a plan already to have the three of them? I mean, in a row without credits? You have something like that in mind?
I was thinking about screening the films together, but in a way that I would leave the way that they would be presented, the order that they would be presented to anyone who would want to curate such a screening or to include the films in a program, which would also be giving this choice to maybe give the last shape to the whole trilogy, a triptych. But we're also planning an installation, so that's kind of in progress. The work is in progress, and I would like to. I think that the installation would give us a possibility to show the relations of space of the three films.
Just it's interesting, and my opinion, I will let you the after that. But just it's interesting. You mean that, for example, if I want to show that in my festival, I could show the third one first, then so the first one, then the second one. I could show it in the way because when you thought about this triptych, the trilogy, you had in mind the first one, the second one, and the third one. So in your mind, it was in order, no? So
Not really. I when I came up with the whole thing, because I wrote the three parts. I came up with the idea and with for the three parts at the beginning. So it wasn't that I made wrote the parts after finishing each other. So so the way I see it is more like that's why also I call it a triptych, because I see it as a like a kind of maybe altar piece in a church. You have three parts, and you come in and you look at wherever your eyes lead you, and that gives you a certain kind of story. So I think that I would like to give the freedom to maybe somebody who is programming, or to the audience in the case of installation, to create the story anew.
but that's why the installation is interesting. It's because, of course, we can pick wherever we want. So we can even pick in the third one and the first, and then the third one again and second one. Finally, it's a interesting way of saying
Yes, and also I think that like the last word of the feeling that the audience would leave the cinema, for example, would be the programmers. So
Marie-Pauline?
Yes, you were just saying that it was clear from the beginning that there would be three movies. Did it change a lot? I mean, from the beginning until now, how did it evolve? The whole project evolve?
so I wrote three scripts, made three storyboards, and then I started the production of first part two, then part three, and before I started to work on part one, I came back to the story and I developed it a bit more because it was already uh, I wanted to, first of all, to make sure that that it relates better to the two previous films. But also, when I was writing the three stories, one was written as the last, and I clearly felt that my creative energy is lower, and I knew that I would have to come back to that story to digest it a bit more.
And of course, to continue the question, it's interesting because, of course, when we look at the three film, actually, I look at the three films in a row, so 1, 2, 3, and of course, you try to have some link between them. So the fur coat, for example, or thing like that. Did you add in mind that we, of course, our vision wants to, audience want to link the three films?
Yes, but the links are they are there to kind of spur the imagination rather than to give a particular answer or particular way of solving the a riddle, so to speak. Um, so I wanted to make a kind of space for all kinds of interpretations and building links and relations between the three films.
Marie-Pauline?
Yes. How did you meet that concept of impossible figures? And were you fascinated by that concept, or just you just found it was a good idea to make movies with that concept?
It wasn't that it was for a long time that I was exploring the subject. I have to say that I just sat one day and um, I wanted to make a project that would be bigger than a short film, because I felt that the process of making a short film, preparing it, writing, then producing, then recovering from it is very lengthy, and I wanted to have a project that would be working for a longer period of time. So I wanted to have a plan for something bigger, but I didn't feel that a feature length or a longer project was what would work well because of the kind of language that I use in the films. I think it's quite dense. So if I would like to make a feature, for example, or a longer film, it would be too much. I felt that it needs to be shorter bits. Uh, but one day I just sat and I was thinking about those impossible figures, how frustrating it is to look at at one. You know, you try to find a solution which seems almost there. You know, it seems just a step away that you will work out how it works. And this feeling of seeing something so clearly possible, and at the same time, you know, it's not possible to build it. It reminded me, made me think of various situations in life, which have the same feeling, the same quality of being frustrating and yet simple at first sight.
That's why actually in the direction, in the mise en scène of the film, the first film, we have this camera movement going inside, and the second one, yeah, we have somebody coming to us. It's kind of a blur, the reality actually, and we don't understand everything. It's like of a, I don't know, like you said, it's impossible to understand everything that's going on in this world. You have that in mind when you're directing, when you're doing the storyboard, and when you're doing, because I mean, these first shots in your in the number one, Impossible number one, it's quite amazing. I mean, we're going inside something, and there is a lot of objects we don't understand. We have human beings at one point. We have architecture. We have like something, and it's quite, I don't know. I don't know the word in English, but déroutant, Marie-Pauline. These things like.
Yes, I know what you mean. Generally, for all of the parts, it's what you are saying, that it's this feeling that I did want to evoke. But this particular part, this beginning of part one, it was, I have to here admit to inspiration. It was inspired by Italo Calvino's Cosmic Comics, which I love, and. Yes.
Marie-Pauline?
When you were talking about that, those impossible figures are so frustrating, and it seems possible, but it's not. It's like a definition for a relationship. So
relationships, for society also, for bigger in bigger scale and in smaller scale. I think we're currently meeting subjects which have a kind of blueprint idea of being simple and doable, but it's just not quite so. And we meet a lot of illusions, and we meet a lot of obstacles and traps.
You're talking about society, not only relationship. It seems that this first part is more political. I mean, directly political. We have, of course, some building, communist building. We have some statue of, sport people. Why did you want to have this more political view in this first one?
So first of all, I think I have most doubts how to write, how to develop this part, because for part 2 and 3, I well, first of all, the 3 stories, they are happening in 3 scales. So we have the space between 2 people, the house, the home, and the city. So for the part 2 and 3, I was heavily relying on my own experience, on observation, on the body. So I could take from that in a very intuitive and natural way. And as for part 1, which relates to wider subjects, which I do not have such an experience with, I am not I'm not like my protagonist, who is an elderly woman, probably with a lot of history behind her. So I decided to take from the, so to speak, maybe memory of visual memory of culture, of buildings, architecture, of sculpture. That was my my body.
Marie-Pauline?
Well, were you also inspired by the post-apocalyptic atmosphere we have, of course, now, but we had before, because of so many crises, ecological crises and stuff like that?
Mm-hmm. First of all, the film was written and the production was started before the pandemic. So when the pandemic started, and suddenly I'm making a film where we have which was supposed to be based around the feeling of something that is coming, something that we're waiting, we don't know where it will hit us and what will happen, but generally this overall mood of things going into a very bad direction on many levels, political and environmental, and there was a general feeling that something's coming. But then when the pandemic happened, I suddenly realized that the beginning of the film, the empty streets, is just outside, it's in the television. So so it was like, oh, okay. What now? And yes, we were I wasn't expecting that, but it's it was also interesting how it will influence the perception of the film.
But to continue what Marie-Pauline was saying, it was what's coming, but what is lost, because the characters say they all disappeared. So it seems like, I mean, there is no, the future is uncertain, but the past was not also great. I mean, was also uncertain. So it's like, yeah, yeah, it's also what is about loss. But maybe it's good to. I mean, it's interesting because we don't know if it's good that the things are lost or not in the film.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I wanted to make it felt that what we are what I find and what many find or have found alluring in the ideals that I wanted to show, the beauty, the strong body, the beautiful building sculptures. It's something that we are easily um, amazed by, and that and I wanted to show it in a context of it going very wrong.
Marie-Pauline?
Were you also inspired by catastrophic movies, or not at all? Are that some kind of movies you like, some post-apocalyptic?
Uh, to be honest, there was one film I was inspired by, and it was Leni Riefenstahl's Olympia. So I was rather looking for images from before the apocalypse, ones that were innocent or alluring or beautiful, but now we have a knowledge of the whole context and of history, that this beautiful body has lost its innocence.
There's a lot of actually Polish science fiction film from the 70s and 80s. You could have gone into that also, no?
Maybe, but yeah, that wasn't really my where I looked.
The spaces are always so important in your film. You talk about that, like it's different spaces. It seems like there is also permeability of spaces. We're going from one space to another, and it's also in your directing. We can cut suddenly and be in another places. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Well, that's one thing that animation easily allows for, and it's also something typical for the state of dreaming. So I guess that's always in my films. I'm kind of balancing on this verge of dream somehow, of state where things are easily blended one into another, and you can the space is very plastic, elastic.
Marie-Pauline?
And how do you plan that before the production? To realize it concretely. How is it just with the storyboard or?
Well, I think it's very typical script, storyboard, and design and layouts. So it's very typical. I always leave some room for maybe some improvisation. In every film, there's a bit where I can improvise a bit. In part one, it's the beginning scene with the explosion. So it was kind of created as, there was general structure, but what would happen, the flying bits and people and objects, it was something that was improvised.
So you mean everything that's in this big bang at the beginning, this big explosion, you didn't know what was in it at the beginning?
I had an idea, but it was such a it was a difficult scene, so I just had to see how it has to be done, and just design it as I go. And I worked on this scene with Alex Boya at the NFB, so he put the little bits in motion that I I designed, and I put them into space. So always in my films there's a part which is not completely planned.
It seemed maybe that's the first film in all your film you had that the body of the character in your films are too heavy for them. It's like it's a burden almost. Maybe this one is a little bit different. I don't know if it's an older woman or something like that, but it seems, yeah, it's not as heavy for her that it was for the other character.
Yeah, she's almost not there. And she appears, she doesn't even appear. First we hear her voice only until a certain moment. So because the real body, as I said before, is in the city. The city is the real protagonist.
That's why she even disappeared at the end. We won't say everything, but yeah, we only have a little bit of a face. That's the first time you use dialogues.
Yes. There's not many, but it was the first time I used dialogue, and first time I worked with an actor speaking or singing. So that was very interesting.
Can you talk a little bit about Anna Polini, which I read was something like the mother of Polish theaters? It's like a real important person, and she worked with, we know her because she worked with Kieslowski, the Decalogue. Sorry for the pronunciation.
Yeah, she's she's a really big name. She's like the diva of the theater. So it was all really scary for me because I'm not that experienced in working with actors. So yes, the another twist was that just as we were about to record, first of all, she's singing a song. So that was a challenge. And second of all, just about when we were about to have the recording, the pandemic increased, the numbers increased in Poland, and we decided to record it online. So I was here. My sound designer was in Warsaw, and Anna Polony was in a radio in Krakow with another sound designer, and we were all connected via this software, and we rehearsed it, not so many times though, because she's also in her years, so to speak. So we rehearsed on the phone, we talked, and yeah, it was quite amazing. She was also telling all kinds of stories, and yeah, that was a very special experience, but it worked out, and here we are.
Marie-Pauline.
Yes, you were talking about the body and that is a part of the body, and especially you like to show a small part of the body. And I was thinking in that movie of the feet, we see the feet of the protagonist. I think a lot. It seems like a lot. Can you say something about it, or is it just like by chance?
Why did I show the feet?
Yes.
Yes, I wanted to show the feet because, in old people, the feet and the hands, they are, um, you can see the age in the feet and the hands. And when an old person is walking, it's also not very easy. So I chose that part to introduce her, and also she is trying to remain elegant. She's trying to remain feminine, but you can also see her age. So that's how I wanted to introduce the character.
But there is a movie, by John Cassavetes, Opening Night, and Cassavetes is a photographer, and at one point he said that he doesn't like to photograph young children because there is nothing on their faces, and he say, I love to photograph old people because all these all the wrinkles and everything tell us so much things. And I think it's kind of beautiful. I mean, even if it's of course aging and everything, and maybe she's more beautiful without the fur coat, or maybe without the feminine side. I don't know, and only with the skin. I don't know how you feel about that.
First of all, I one thing that came to my mind was that my background is in fine arts, so we had drawing nude classes, and it was always most interesting to draw old people. It was just, if you had a young muscular guy or beautiful lady, it was, there was nothing, to really um, hook onto. But the old bodies were really always very interesting and inspiring. And the second thing is that one inspiration that I had for the character was the heroine of a documentary by the Maisels brothers, Grey Gardens. It's a story about two women, mother and daughter, who are the cousins of Jackie Kennedy, and they lived in luxury and in a beautiful house. And at the end, after the war, they declined in poverty, and they live in this house with many cats, and it's dirty. And the daughter, and they almost don't contact the outside world. And the daughter, she has some kind of a hair problem. Her hair was falling out, so she has a headscarf, and she has a fur coat that she wears occasionally. And she reminisces also on because she never married, but she's reminiscing on the time when she was a young woman, enjoying the societal life, and having prospects of maybe a good marriage, and living in good conditions. So her life is looking back to these times, and this the fur coat is also a kind of symbol.
To go back to the fur coat, actually, we can. That's a possible interpretation. We can, of course, think because the fur coat is in every film that it's the same woman, and of course, the second film is the first film. It's when she's young, and maybe she's older, and then she's older in the third one. Something you thought about at one point?
Yes, but I like to leave it to the audience, because it's an kind of obvious association. So we have a female character, and also she's wearing this makeup, so in a way it can identify her. But after all, it's drawing, so it's not very precise. We can't really say, is it the same woman, is it not? But I like to leave the bits for imagination of the audience, who it is.
Marie-Pauline?
Yeah, in your movies there are lots of women, maybe the same or not, so we don't know. But yeah, I really like the way you portray them, because they're both feminine and at the same time they're real. They're not like beautiful women with everything you can imagine and you can see in movies usually. And I really like the way you portray them. And I was wondering if it's a conscious. I mean, you're aware of doing that, or you really want to do that, or it's just the way you like to draw.
Yes, I try to make them real, which is not easy if you have a simple drawn style. It's sometimes not easy to be real and at the same time not fall into caricature. Or so I try to find a balance between that, but I want my characters to be easy. I want it to be possible to identify with them.
And actually, what is interesting is, of course, with all the great characters, we can identify with somebody, which genre and sexes and everything they are. And I think what is incredible with, and especially in the second one, is you can really understand whatever you are, whoever you are. That's a feeling, because it's like you begin like everyday life almost. She's coming back from shopping and everything, but then there's this man falling on earth, like the burden that she had also. Maybe that's an interpretation that we can have, of course, but it's interesting that you mix almost the everyday life, like walking around and things like that, and something maybe more psychological, something more strong.
um I don't
Yeah.
know if I should what you are asking. I'm happy that is your interpretation.
Okay, let's sorry. Now let's talk about something it's important in your movie, and you change it a little bit in this one. We're all thinking of what is just gonna do now with the music, because of course in the first one and second one we have a song at the end, and it was like I was like, I don't know, Marie, but I was like, okay, what is gonna be in this one? And there's a little twist in it. How did you change it? Why did you want it to have a character sing the song and not have it, you know, in sing by somebody else?
First of all, it was the idea for the ending was not there from the beginning, so it was something I developed when I came back to the film. And first of all, it's important what she's singing. The song, I think it's an iconic song, and with its own context and history. um, and for me it was obvious that she has to sing it, that it has to be this old person singing, and kind of struggling in a way, because when an older woman sings, it's you can feel that it's not so smooth, that it takes some effort to make that sound. So that's what I wanted to be felt, that she's making this effort for this last performance, for this gesture.
So we have to talk a little bit about the song, which, like you said, it's an important song by Pete Seeger. Pete Seeger is a famous folk song. He had a problem with McCarthy during the McCarthyism in United States. It was kind of difficult, and of course we know it also in France because Marlène Dietrich sang it in French, in English, and in German. Actually, in the film, it's the character sing it in German, and actually I never can say the name of the band, sorry, but Azun certain no button that you used in the second film actually recorded this song also in German on
I
the
stopped in my Bauten, yes.
yes, thank
Yeah,
you.
yes, I
Recorded this song in 2014. So
yeah.
yeah, sorry, that's a strong song. I mean, the meanings are really important, and when Pete Seeger wrote the lyrics at the time, it was really meaningful for him. Also, can you talk a little bit more? Why did you choose the song? And of course, we talk about the maybe more political side of this film. It's important, of course. We have
Mhm.
this song.
So yeah, the song is huge, and apart from Marlene Dietrich, there's also in French Dalida.
Yeah.
So you can look. It's one of those songs that you can create a playlist with all the versions, and it will go on and on. But I've always liked Marlene Dietrich, and somehow when I was working on the film, also her character of, especially when she was older and she was this diva who was also in a way trying to stay forever grand and young, and she was known for this. She came to my mind, but I was listening to her songs, and this song, which is not really her song, it's Pete Seeger's song, but um, in one concert he mentioned that Marlena sung it. It's the best version that of the song is sung by Marlena in German. So, and I also feel that in her interpretation, there's much more. It's much more dramatical. It somehow involves her own context, even though, the strange thing about the song is that it's kind of, when you look at the melody, the music, it's kind of upbeat. It's when I took away the lyrics, I felt, it's something that you might sing with a guitar by a fire. But the lyrics are so meaningful and kind of heavy, that I like this tension, and I think that's what makes the song really powerful too, the combination of lightness and heaviness.
And the fact that also, like you said, when you're old, maybe because the film is also about what is lost, and of course, when you get older and older, you know more and more what is losing things, of course,
Mhm.
than when you're young. So that's why also you use Marlene Dietrich, because at the end, of course, she had all the life, I guess, and yeah,
Yes,
that's why maybe she's more powerful in singing.
yes, also, an old person looking at the life, and you can't really change much anymore. So
Marie Pauline?
Yes, and I also had the feeling that even in the really end, you still don't have understood that what the song say, like when we gonna understand, and so maybe never, because even in the really really end, we're still singing that song.
Mhm. Yeah, so generally when I was working on that film, I was thinking that I left it for the last, because I thought, like, who am I to, I don't have this experience, this knowledge to talk about like big subjects, which don't concern only my closest courtyard, or so to speak. But I decided that it will be a film about my own frustration, about my emotions, uh, and not a kind of diagnosis. Or so in a way, it's a kind of, I felt that for me it's a kind of like lament, uh, to connect with this feelings of frustration and of loss and of feeling of, yes, of things going away.
And I guess the sound is quite important in that feeling. The silence that you put, and you work with the same musical sound design. You have a musical sound design and a sound designer for the
Mhm.
film. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because yeah, this feeling of lament, this feeling of, it's like, yeah, it's really interesting how you play with the music, the sound, and again the silence.
Yes, I guess that the recipe for the relation of sound and music is very similar to the previous films. So we have music, or musical sound design, composed by a composer. It's a mixture of sounds, and um, it's more like experimental. And we have, hello,
Yeah.
Yes.
because you disappeared.
Also,
um, and we have the music. So that was clear from the start, that's how we will do it. But what we didn't know was how to solve the song, whether there should be music, whether there shouldn't be music. And it was a long and painful process, and that led us, uh, many times, again and again, to the conclusion that her voice is the most powerful, um, and it will not stand the competition of accompaniment.
Marie-Pauline, maybe one last question. We're going to finish like in say, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, I was wondering, you were talking previously about improvisations, and then you were just saying that do you try many things, like for the music? Do you try the song without music, with different kind of music? And for the images, do you also try a lot of things?
Yeah, we tried a lot of things for the ending. We really we really tried to go with maybe minimal music, maybe different versions. So we kept on looking, because there was music, songs with music in the previous parts, and I think it was something that kind of that we remembered, and that we felt that it might add to her singing, also because her singing, it's quite it's quite long, that she sings. And we felt that maybe there's something that should um, accompany her singing. But eventually we decided for sound design, so we were using sound as a kind of accompaniment.
The question of improvisation is really interesting by Marie-Pauline, because we were talking about sound. I mean, that's the first time that you work with an outside company, NFB. That's
Mhm.
the first time that we were doing that. Do you trust yourself? I mean, for me, you had like this vision in your mind, and I don't know how a producer is accompanying you and how people from outside are accompanying you. Think for me that you know what you're doing, and even if you don't know, it's okay because you're just doing it, by your heart or something like that. So how do you work with that? It's This
Oh, it was a wonderful experience
yeah.
to work with the NFB. First of all, I decided to, at the beginning, when we were discussing how they should participate, I suggested that I would like to do animation with them because I felt that as for sound and music, I had it all worked out. But it turned out to be a really good move because I had a great team there, and they a great producer, Maral Mohammadian, and she understands perfectly all the how it works, how that sometimes you need to be flexible, sometimes you need to make some changes, but they were wonderful, and there were a lot of tricky moments. So it was really lucky for me to have them.
It's a relief also just to have somebody like Alex Boya, like you said, like people like that, and said, okay, I want that. Can you help me do that?
Yes, it was I think they were just doing just the things that they were really perfect at, so they were very well picked and cast by Maral. So yeah, it was an amazing experience.
And how do you work with? I'm always saying when I see Olivier Calvert name somewhere, because you already have two people from the sound design. So how did he manage to come in your the teamwork that you already
Yeah,
done?
actually, the when musical sound design, it's Alexandra Gryka. It's more like music, but it's on the verge of sound. So she's a composer. She's a uh, she does music, and my sound designer with whom I worked on my previous films, who does all the Foley and the general the general atmospheres, also some musical bits. For example, he was doing sound design, but at some point he recorded some sounds of metal which sound like a clarinet. So there's a moment where you hear something like a clarinet, which is actually a piece of metal. So it was all coming together in very unexpected ways. But Olivier came on board when we were struggling with the ending. We were discussing. It was a really long process of trying to find it, should there be music, should there not be music. And at some point, because Nihao was involved, that the sound designer was involved with doing all the sound design, which was a mess, we decided to invite Olivier to help us work out the ending, just a fresh perspective. And yes, and he did the sound part for the singing in the end.
Marie-Pauline, maybe one last question. I don't know if you have one last question.
Yes, if I have one last question, it would be about now about the future. Now you've been working on this triptych for a very long time. So are you ready for a feature now?
Yes, actually. I'm planning a feature film for children, unexpectedly.
Wow, nice.
It's an idea that I had for a long time that just came, and I realized that it's an idea for children, not for adult film. And as soon as I have some space for working, I will move on to that, which will probably be a longer project as well.
It's quite a surprise. Children, I mean, we don't expect, which is cool, of course, that we don't expect that, and you're doing that. That's interesting. We'll wait for that. Actually, it's interesting because you did like still 40, almost 43 minutes in 5 years, so it's quite okay, I guess.
If you tell it to a not a member of the animation set, they will think it's insane. But
I have, sorry, I have maybe not one last question, but maybe a remark. Like always, I'm not sometimes making remarks more than question. I know, but the first time we met was in Zagreb in Anima Fest. I was doing the Q&A for the second part, and I remember that because I just saw the film for the first time on big screen. I saw it before on small, and I was like that. I couldn't speak really, and I went into a stage. I was like, I told you, I don't know how you're gonna do. We're gonna do the Q&A because I'm so impressed, and I don't know. And preparing this interview was almost like that, and I'm glad that Marie-Pauline is here because I was like, I won't be able to do anything because every time I'm like, it's like for me, it's like music. You feel my like kind of music. I'm feeling them, and it's sometimes hard to explain why I like them or why I feel like that. How do you feel about that? I mean, it's complicated because of course when we do like that kind of things we have to you know search and find words, but sometimes yesterday night I watched it like, the three again. I was like, I won't be able. I was almost having telling you, no, we won't make the the interview today because I'm not able to do it. How do you feel about that? I don't know.
Uh, I'm happy you feel that way. Yes, I'm really happy that the films resonate. That's the idea, that they should resonate and they should meet something inside you. So if that is happening, then
And just to make a real question, I think that you like that also. I mean, we spent like 1 hour together, and you explain things, but it seems like you don't want to explain too much. It's like you said, we have to do our homework about the film, and that's the point also of what you like in doing films. That explains.
yes, and I think that the audience they bring a lot to the films. Mm, they fill the films with their sensitivity, their emotions, their experience. So I think it's like the final stage of making a film is just like screening it with an audience.
Well, Marie-Pauline, last word, or we're going to finish on that?
I think it's a beautiful ending.